my name is Nancy Ramirez, and before I start off, the person that was supposed to be here with me today unfortunately couldn't make it. Something came up, so it's just gonna be me today, but I will be presenting this as if I am speaking to an audience. So I hope you guys enjoy. My name is Nancy Ramirez, and I wanted to talk about something I think we've all done at some point, which is judging people too quickly. So, I'm gonna give a little bit of backstory. I work at a shoe store, and I work at one of the busiest malls in the IE, Ontario Mills. I guarantee that at least 3 of you guys, 5 of you guys, at least one of you guys have been to that mall, and it gets super duper busy. And there's a bunch of different kinds of people. I see all kinds of people walking through my store doors, and it's a shoe store. It's a retail store, and let me just say that not everyone is the nicest. Some people are friendly, others are quiet, and some are a little rude, a little impatient. And when I started working there, if someone came up to me with a bad attitude or was rude to me, my initial thought was, wow, they're so rude, or wow, what's their problem? But over time, I started to think differently. And I got into the mindset of thinking about them and what can be causing them to react this way. So for example, oh, they must have been walking around all day, so their feet might hurt, they're tired, they're stressed, or that they might be dealing with personal issues. So in reality, it's really easy to judge people based on the few minutes of the behavior that they present to you, but we rarely see the full picture. We tend to base them off of people and we don't know them entirely. And this mistake does have a name, and it is called the fundamental attribution error. So this happens way more often than we realize. So first of all, I'm going to be explaining what the error is. And this is when someone, when someone does something, especially something we don't like, we tend to blame their personality instead of thinking of their situation. So, in other words, we assume their actions reflect who they are and not what's happening to them. So let me give you guys an example. So you might get a parking ticket and immediately think like, oh, these officers are being so mean and they just love ruining people's days. But in reality, the officer is just doing their job. You parked there illegally, and the situation, not their personality, caused the outcome. But our brains want to blame them personally, the officer personally, when they were just doing their job. And this happens in everyday life too. Again, I work in retail. I encounter many mean people, many rude people, but I just have to remind myself that maybe they're going through a rough day. They're having a rough day. They're going through a hard time. So we just need to pause and think about the situation, and it helps us treat people with more kindness and being more understanding. So, secondly, this mistake often happens because our brains love shortcuts. This error often happens when we don't have all the information, because let's be honest, that's most of the time. Imagine you're driving and someone cuts you off. Your first thought, they're selfish, they're careless, they shouldn't be on the road. You know, a lot of people have car rage. A lot of people have road rage. I forgot what it was called. A lot of people have road rage. But, you know, a lot of the times these cars can be acting up for many reasons. They're rushing to the hospital. They had an emergency. Research shows that the fundamental attribution error causes us to make fast and often incorrect assumptions about others without taking into account that there may be another reason for their observed behavior. The reason this happens is because it takes more than mental energy to consider a situation. Our brain naturally wants to take shortcuts, especially when we're tired, distracted, or busy. In fact, one study found that when people were distracted, they were more likely to blame a person's character rather than thinking about the situation. So we actually tend to do the opposite. It's called actor-observer bias. When we mess up, we blame the situation. But when someone else messes up, we tend to blame their personality. And if you think about it deeply, you can probably recall a time that you guys have done that. Because I know I can. So, for example, if I do badly on a test, I might say, the test was unfair, or the teacher didn't explain that well. I remember I did that a lot in elementary school, but in reality, I just didn't study enough. I didn't put enough effort into getting a good grade or getting a good result. So, this is a double standard, and it just shows how sneaky the fundamental attribution error can be. Okay, I know you guys are probably tired of getting blamed over and over and over, but there's good news to this, don't worry. The good news is that we can work on it. So, the first step is awareness, being aware. Just knowing that we all make this mistake helps us slow down before judging someone. One helpful tip is to start practicing gratitude. If someone's bad behavior bothers you, try to make a mental list of 5 good qualities they have. This helps you remember that people are more than just one bad moment. Another way is by building emotional intelligence, and this can consist of things like self-awareness, empathy, and self-regulation. For example, you can have real conversations with your coworkers about their life outside of work, and that can help you understand them better. Maybe the coworker who seems lazy is actually struggling with something we don't see. While we can't completely avoid making these judgments, with combination of awareness and a few small tools and tactics, you can be more gracious and empathetic with your coworkers. Recognizing these mental shortcuts is actually a key of becoming a better friend, a better coworker, or even a better leader. So overall, the fundamental attribution error makes us judge people too quickly by thinking their action shows who they are, when in reality, there could be so much more going on behind the scenes that we don't see. It happens because our brain likes to take shortcuts, and we tend to blame others for their actions but make excuses for ourselves. If we can slow down, be more aware, and try to see the good in people, we can avoid jumping to conclusions. In the end, being more understanding doesn't just help others, but it helps us too. It makes our relationships better, it reduces conflict, and overall, it just makes the world a little kinder. Thank you for listening.